Compass. An instrument for finding directions. Cardinal points. The 4 main points on a compass: north, east, south, and west. Intermediate points. The points in between cardinal points: northeast, northwest, northwest, southeast, and southwest. Equator. An imaginary line circles Earth halfway between the North and South Pole and divides the Earth into 2 half-spheres, called hemispheres. Prime meridian. Another imaginary line that cuts the Earth in half from the North Pole to the South Pole. Latitude lines. Round west to east always have the same distance in between them, are measured starting at the equator, 0 degrees latitude, North Pole 90 degrees latitude, South Pole 90 degrees latitude. Longitude lines. Lines that run from the North Pole to the South Pole, not always the same distance apart. Starting place for measuring them is the prime meridian. Prime meridian is at 0 degrees longitude. Sea. A body of salt water that is smaller than an ocean. Gulf. A sea or ocean that cuts into a landmass. Bay. Similar to a gulf but usually smaller and has a wide opening to the sea. Lake. A body of fresh water that is surrounded by land. Source. Where the river begins. Mouth. Where the river empties into a larger body of water. Tributary. A smaller stream that feed into a river. Landforms. Masses of land such as continents, islands, and peninsulas. Mountain. These usually have steep sides and rise at least 2,000 feet above sea level. Mountain range. A row of connected mountains. Plains. Land that is mostly flat with few trees. Peninsula. Land that is surrounded by water on 3 sides. Cape. An extension of land jutting out into the water that is usually smaller or thinner than a peninsula. Island. Land that is completely surrounded by water. Valley. the low area between ranges of mountains or hills. Delta, formed when soil is deposited at the mouth of a river. The Great Plains lie west of the Mississippi River and east of the Rockies, covers U.S.'s Colorado, Kansas, Montana, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming, and parts of Canada and Mexico. Home of the American bison herds historically. The mountainous west. Rocky Mountains, Great Basin. Watershed. An area or a ridge of land that separates waters flowing to different rivers, basins, or seas. Eastern region. Appalachian Mountains, the coastal plain along Atlantic seaboard, Florida Peninsula, eastern portion of Mexico. Colorado River flows from Rocky Mountains southwest into the Gulf of California, has formed many canyons through time, including Grand Canyon. Columbia River flows from British Columbia into Washington, forming the border between Washington and Oregon into the Pacific. Missouri River flows from southern Montana into the Rockies southeast through the U.S., ending at the Mississippi River, just north of St. Louis, Missouri, longest river in the U.S. Mississippi River flows from NW, Minnesota to south the Gulf of Mexico, just below New Orleans, significant for transportation since it is connected to both the Ohio and Missouri rivers. Ohio River formed by the confluence of the Allegheny and Monongahela rivers in Pa. It flows southwest from Pa into the Mississippi. It forms the border between Ohio and WVO and Kentucky, as well as parts of other states. Rio Grande River flows from Colorado southeast into the Gulf and forms the border between Texas and Mexico, used for drinking water but becoming polluted. St. Lawrence River flows out of Lake Ontario and into the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Lake Huron west of Ontario, Canada and northeast of Michigan, second largest of Great Lakes. Lake Ontario. Northeast of Xelve, south of Ontario and north of Niagara Peninsula and NY, smallest of Great Lakes. Lake Michigan. Only one entirely within U.S., third largest west of Michigan. Lake Erie. Fourth largest lake, shallowest, smallest by volume, south of Ontario and north of OSPA and NY, and east of me, named after a Erie tribe of natives. Lake Superior. Largest lake, south of Ontario and Minnesota, and north of WISC and third largest in the world by volume. Rocky Mountains. Extend from New Mexico up through the western U.S. and on into the British Columbia, contain over 100 individual mountain ranges. Appalachian Mountains. Extend from Alabama up through the New England states and Canada. Great Plains Mountains. Slope down off the east of the Rockies and extend into the Canadian Shield. Coastal Plains. South and SE part of U.S. that is characterized by level, flat land with mixed forests. The Great Basin. Largest desert in North America, located in Nevada. Mojave Desert. Located in SE, California. Chihuahua Desert. Second largest, located in SW, U.S. and northern Mexico. Sonoran Desert. Desert located in SW, U.S. and NW, Mexico. Atlantic Coastal Plain. Physiographic province of low relief along the east coast of the United States that extends 2,200 miles from the New York Bight 2-3 southward to a Georgia, Florida section of the eastern continental divide, which demarcates the plain from the ACF River Basin in the Gulf Coastal Plain too. Gulf Coastal Plain. The Gulf Coastal Plain extends from the Florida parishes of Louisiana over most of Mississippi, some of western Tennessee, Kentucky, the southwestern two-thirds of Alabama, the western Florida Panhandle in southern Texas,